Hey, good day. Paul here with the House of Graber on the 26th day of May, 2024. Coming to you from the Memoirs of a Farmer Boy platform. This is where we talk about real life experiences of today concerning Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." My goal here is to share things that could possibly can bring your journey out of corporate into private, a little more into focus, and to help you along the way. I'm going to add something else here that I feel is very pertinent to what we're talking about today and what we talk about in general here. And Yahoo, and this is, by the way, is Deuteronomy 28:13. And Yahuwah shall make you the head and not the tail, not up here. And Yahuwah shall make you the head and not the tail, and ye shall be above only, and you shall not be beneath. If that you hearken unto the commandments of Yahuwah Eloheka, which I command you this day to guard and to do them. So if we hearken unto his commandments, we can be above. In other words, we should be the ones making the decisions. When I say we, I'm talking about the family of the one true God, our creator, the ecclesia, the same body that our ancestors were referring to when they said, we the people. That's who I'm referring to. We should be making the decisions and calling the shots from above instead of stooping down and being beneath and letting some, fictional corporate company, otherwise known as Babylon, the mystery Babylon, the mother of all harlots, rather than letting that whore make the decisions for us. That's like dangerous business, but a lot of people do that. So before I go any further, I want to say that everything that we bring forth here, everything that we do, the conversations we have, the content that we share, whether it's printed material or audio, video, etc. Everything that we do here at the House of Graber and at Memoirs of a Farmer Boy is protected by and is also subject to the laws of nature and nature's God, otherwise known as the heavenly courts, the court of the ecclesia. And these things are also protected and safeguarded by the private registered copyright of the House of Graber. Now, today, and by the way, I want to mention that, this is not really a sponsor per se. Riverbend Ranch, the newest and the largest and the most efficient and the best is what I'm talking about. Riverbend Ranch has a state-of-the-art processing facility. These people, they raise their own stock. They raise the beef. They have the processing facility, and then they deliver it to the customer. And they call it never ever because there's never been any antibiotics or hormones put in these animals. It's the very best quality, gets delivered to your door. And if you want more information about that, go ahead and click on the link in the description, memoirsofafarmerboy.com. That's where you can go to connect with me for more information about the beef and also about other things that we discuss on this channel. Then in the description, there's also going to be a a link to our son's YouTube channel, which is Torch Phase, the where he makes knives, beautiful pieces of work, hand forged knives. And so go check that out. Then another link in the description. There's a couple, my Spotify link, Memoirs of a Farmer Boy, YouTube as well. And then another YouTube link that's in the description is my beautiful woman's channel, Homesteading Made Easy by Memoirs of a Farmer Girl, where she shows you uh, the things that you can do to keep your household healthy and functioning in the manner that where you have actual food, the food. Like we buy from this company, but we also cut up our own beef. Those are some of the things that you can learn about processing beef, processing chicken, raising chickens, gardening, maple syrup. There's all kinds, and there's no fluff there. She just goes through. She's a master in all of those areas, and she goes through and shows you simply how she does it. Like there's no it's just the real stuff is what you get there. So check that out. And today's message is going to be about authenticating the birth record. Authenticating the birth record, and why would you do this and what for? Okay. So first of all, I want to be very clear about something. This is based on real life experiences, based on things that we have done here at the House of Graber, based on actual results that we've had and that we've walked through and things we've learned. On this platform, Memoirs of a Farmer Boy, if I talk about something that I've done, then I'll tell you, this is what we've done and this has been my experience. And if you in a more private setting, if you contact me and you ask me a question about something, if it's something that I've done or that I've helped somebody walk through and I've got results to show for it, or maybe I didn't get any results, either way, I'll talk to you about it based on my experience and based on the results or the lack thereof. If you ask me about something I haven't done, I'll tell you that I don't know I don't know the proven method because I haven't done that. Now, I may tell you that, hey, if I was to try that, this is what I would do, but I can't, I haven't done it. I don't know much about it because I have better things to do in my life than trying to act like an expert in an area that I don't know anything about. Like if you're gonna have somebody rebuild your car engine or rebuild your engine in your truck or whatever, tear it apart and go down and just make it brand new again. If you would hire me to do that, tearing it apart may be possible. It'd take me a while, but I could probably do that. But that's about all I could promise you because that's not my expertise. That is not what I am skilled at. There's people that are very skilled at that, but not me. So there's no need for me to tell you that I know how to do it because I don't. If you've ever listened to somebody and they told you how to do something and then you went and did it. Now, the flip side is sometimes when we give people an actual thing, even if we have results, they'll take it and they'll make a mess of it because they don't really do what we told them that we did. So there's that side too. But I don't really like fake. I don't care for fake. These gurus, these so-called gurus that are teaching stuff that they're not doing. Now, a friend of mine had approached me, and I'm getting off on a little bit of a sidetrack, but I'm going to talk about it because it's something that you might want to be aware of. A friend of mine, we had joined a Telegram channel. Carol and I did, and the channel where a lot of people paid a lot of money for education on how to live in the private. And we left that channel because of some lack of morals, which entails a whole bunch of stuff. But the one I'm going to talk about is the one teaching processes, so to speak, or things to do, apparently hasn't done them, hasn't done the processes. And friend of mine talked to me at some point about all the money that people paid, and that they should get that money back. And there's people that take this stance that you shouldn't have to pay for information. Well, I don't agree with that. If I would have stuck with that mentality, I'd have never gotten very far, because you're going to pay, you're going to make some kind of an investment. May not always be money, but I've done a lot of research over the last 20 plus years, invested a ton of money. And I have no regrets about that, but I'm just telling you that it takes an investment of some kind. Either you figure it out and you research. But what I told my friend about this is, I said, I don't think the money that people paid would be a problem if I don't think people would have that big of a problem if they were actually doing what they're teaching and people were actually getting results based on, that. In other words, they just deliver what they charge for. It's a fair and equitable exchange. That's what they were teaching, equity. So a fair and equitable exchange would be, I know I wouldn't have a problem with it. So authenticating the birth record. Why would you do that? And how would you do it? Well, the only real title to your trust and the property that there's a lot of discussion about whether it's a trust or a corporation or a straw man, but for today's conversation, I'm going to refer to this entity. It's an organization. It's business, actually, is what it is. You could call it that. I'm going to refer to it as I'm just going to call it a trust. Okay. So the real title that is held in trust, the real title to this whole thing, the all caps name, the birth certificate, and all that. Like when you go and you register your car at the B&B, they'll tell you that they're going to send you a title by mail, which is a lie. They don't send you the title. They send you a certificate of title. Okay, we have a certificate of birth, or in some cases, it's called a birth certificate. Different, a little bit different ways of wording it. So in the BMV situation with your car, the MCO or the MSO, the manufacturer certificate of origin, is the only real title. That's the one that was created when the car or the truck was built. And that is held by the BMV. So they're not sending you the title. Same way with our birth record. The record that was filled out or filled in when you were born, I just got to say this. Agents will ask you, what's your date of birth? But then the same agents will say, when were you born? Or were you born in the United States? Now, which is it? Is it born or birthed? So those are little things that we need to pay attention to. So when that paperwork is filled out, and typically your mother is the one that signs it, the mom, the mother of the baby, and then it gets sent off to the registrar of the health department, and it's registered. Now, when you get a certificate of birth, that is just showing that the state holds the original title, just like your certificate of title does on the car. Now, it would be nice, depending on how you look at it, it'd be nice if we could get the original record back that mom signed, but it's not really required, and I don't even know if it's a good idea. I'm not saying if it is or if it isn't. But what we do is we go now in Indiana, there's like a small half-page birth certificate that you get at the county. And then there's the certificate of live birth that we get from the Vital Records Department downstate. Now, I know in some states there's only one. There's just one that you get. But in this case, there's two options, and we go for the certificate of live birth. Okay, so I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I thought I was. Give me a second here. Okay. So now, hopefully you can see this. We're going to start at the top. And so this is the Indiana State Board of Health Division of Vital Records Certificate of Live Birth. Okay. Right there. And I've got a few things redacted on this certificate because I don't feel like it's something I want to share with the whole world. But in most cases on the certificates that we get here on this state, there's a state file number right here, upper right-hand corner. Then over to the left, there's a local file number. So those have some significance, okay? Then you've got the county and the state and city where I was born. This is my certificate, or yeah. So got the information of the hospital over on the left. Bump, 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 bump. Residence, where the the mother lives over here on the right. And there's my name, Paul A. period Graber. Now, if there's a period behind an initial, that means it stands for something. There's a whole word that belongs there, but they just put the A there, so there's a period. If there's no period, then all that means is there's an initial. Excuse me. And then it says it is a single birth, no twins or triplets. Date, month, day, and year. I blotted that out. My dad, Albert H. Graber. White. Color or race? White. Now, I'll tell you what, if you do go and get a certificate of birth for your offspring, you should say there, you should put down NA, not applicable, or other slash, you could write down mankind, something like that, because by doing white or Hispanic or whatever, that's a categorization that it just doesn't belong to real people. It's just, there's a whole story behind that. But then it gives where my dad was born and or etc. My mom, I redacted the last name because it was a maiden name. And then over here on the left, there's I hereby certify the time. Oh, I hereby certify that this child was born alive. And then it gives the time, which I've redacted. And it also gives a date that this, the title was registered, which is about, in my case, somewhere around 15 or 20 days after I was born. And then over here, there's another date that I redacted. See, this was signed by, I thought my mom signed it. It doesn't show the signature here, but it says informant's name. See, up here, there's the two parents' names, and then down here, informant's name, Katie. And either they, it looks to me like they blotted out the signature to make this certificate. I'm not sure why. Then there's a doctor, Raymond, Indiana, C.R. Burkett. And then there's the signature of the health officer. And this is in a legal form. And down here, there's the registrar, whoever the current registrar is, seal, and then the certificate number. Now, this certificate number changes with every certificate that you get. However, the state and the local file number are always the same. Those never change. Now, this is a copy of the original paperwork, supposedly. And a lot of the newer ones, they have a form that this information is in. It's not quite the same. But since we can't get the original back, then we order, if it was me, I would order at least two, because you only need one, but you want to have two of them so that in different locations, so that if one gets destroyed, then you still have another one. And since we can't get the original, then we order these and we get them authenticated. For the country of Taiwan is what we use. It has to be a non-Hague country. And authentication is for non-Hague countries. Apostille is for countries that are part of the Hague Convention. Now, some people may try to tell you different than that, but I don't really care. Those are the terms, and they have it right on the Secretary of State's website. They'll tell you that same thing. So we take this certificate, and once we have it, the first thing we do is we send it to the Secretary of State. In our case, it's Indiana. If you were born in Ohio, you send it to the Secretary of State of Ohio. Wherever the certificate was, where your birth was registered, that's where you go. Wherever you had to go to get the certificates, that's the state, the one that set it up. So now, I'm going to stop screen share if I can figure it out. And then I'm going to move to something else. And I'm going to screen share again. So Indiana changed a little bit how this page looks, but they still do the same thing. It's just with a little bit different process. And in this case, it was stapled, and then their golden seal was put over the top, where it was folded over the edge and on the backside as well. So they bonded this together with their seal. And what they do, and by the way, wherever you're gonna authenticate this for non-Hague country, I'm going to talk about Taiwan because that's one that we've used and it has worked very well. You just go and ask them to authenticate it for Taiwan. Here in Indiana, we can either send the certificate down to get it authenticated, or we can walk in and get it done right there. And, it's no big deal. It's like if you want to travel to Taiwan, you have to get your birth certificate authenticated so you can go over there and do business there. This was back in 2006. Let me see. Yeah, 2016. So she says, I, Connie Lawson, Secretary of State of Indiana, do hereby certify that, according to the records on file, et cetera, she acknowledges the officer of, the health department, Brian J. Carnes. And when he was put in that place and et cetera, on this 14th day of November 2016, she's got her, it's a stamped signature, but so that's what's on there. And that's at the state, whatever state you were born. Now I'm going to go to the third page. I'm going to share screen again. Now, there's a number at the top of this page, but I'm just going to leave it cut off because I forgot to redact it. The third step, or the second step of authentication, you send it to the Department of State of the United States. And again, you request that they authenticate it for Taiwan. Same countries you did the first one. And they have a form that both of them, your local state, Secretary of State, and the Department of State of the United States, they both have their own form that you can use to get this authentication ordered. Now in Indiana, they don't charge for authentication. Some places they do. The Department of State of the United States, right now they're charging $20 per document to get it authenticated. When I did this one, it was $8. So it comes back with a rivet. Well, you know what? I don't care. This is the number each. Like if you do, let's say, you send in 4 certificates. Every one of them is going to have this same big number right here at the top. But then it's going to be -1. The next one is going to be -2, -3, and -4. However many certificates you have, that's the number that changes with each one. Because that's like a batch or something. So it comes back riveted to the other, the certificate and the state Secretary of State, and now this one on top. So it's at this point, it's federal and it's bonded. Okay. They bonded it with a rivet, and you never let anybody take that apart. You never give this to anybody. You keep it. Once you have that, you keep it. It's done by the Department of State. To all whom these presents shall come greetings. I certify that the document hereunto annexed is under the seal of the state of Indiana, and that such seals are entitled to full faith and credit. Okay. So now he's acknowledging the other 2 seals, the seal on the certificate of live birth and the seal of the Secretary of State of Indiana. And then you come down here, John Kerry was Secretary of State, and it's subscribed by the Assistant Authentication Officer of the said department. So what they do is the assistant signs for John Kerry, and then it says by, and whatever that name is, it's not really, there's no word there, there's no letters. It's, turkey tracks, chicken scratch, what, I don't know what, I've got something in mind, but it's just what it is. Over here is the, on the left, they have some codes and statutes of what they go by to make this a valid process. And then there's their embossed, the embossed seal here. Now, when you have this done, you've got 3 seals all bonded together. By 3 witnesses, everything becomes a fact. And based on their own statutes that they go by, they now see this as if it was an original. So it's just as valid as the original is. And here's something that they print on here that a lot of people may or may not see or think about. It's got an asterisk in front of it. For the contents of the annexed document, the department assumes no responsibility. And this certificate is not valid if it is removed or altered in any way whatsoever. So let's look at that. For the contents of the annexed document, what is the annexed document? That is the certificate of live birth. Okay. That's the annexed document because it's annexed to this cover page. For the contents of the annexed document, what are the contents? Well, the annexed document so happens that it is a title to your estate, trust. The contents are the things that are held in this estate trust. It's everything that has your name attached to it. Okay. So they're telling you very clearly they are no longer responsible. They've handed it over to you. You're responsible for the contents. So I just want to say that getting these birth records authenticated there's more to it than just having somebody do a process and now you're golden, because what they've done is they've handed you the the title and said, it's up to you to run this. And there's a couple things I'm going to mention. The things that I do have experience with and have worked on is putting our the things that we've got tangible that we can take a hold of it, like the personal property that we have and cars and etc. Land, house. Those are things that we can see, but there's also a part that I don't pretend to know all about it or even very much about it. But it's the accounting that's attached to the estate trust and the securities and everything that's been based on the real value. There's a real value, and then there's stuff that's been created based on that value. But all of those things, everything that has your name attached to it, that's the contents of the document. They're not talking about the print. They're talking about your property, your stuff. And they're telling you that they've given you the title. Like, here you go. It's all yours. But in some cases, we would have to, even if we could, take everything, so to speak. There's some of the things that we don't know how to do the accounting for. Now, why would we want to do this in the first place? Well, I know it has an effect in and of itself, but it's a foundational thing that we, or at least I know I would consider to do before you start setting up your private trust, foreign grantor trust, PMAs, whatever you're going to hold in the private. To me, based on what I know and what I've done and what I've seen, this would be the first step, getting that certificate of live birth, at least 2 copies, and getting the 2 steps of authentication done. And getting them authenticated is really not any more difficult. It's not difficult at all. It's like, hey, I'm going to travel to Taiwan. I want you to authenticate this for me. And they do it all day long. It's like not a big deal. But if you make an issue of it and you act all fishy and squirmy, then it may be an issue. So when you take over, they hand this to you. They're no longer responsible, is what they're saying. They don't have really any authority. They never did, but they're just acknowledging that you have the authority. You don't necessarily want to claim ownership over your estate trust ever, even though it's for you. Now, side note, I've heard so many people talk about this, and some of them even act like they know what they're talking about. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop screen share. Some of them act like they're the experts. And they'll say, the birth certificate is not yours. The accounting and whatever, it's not yours. It's not yours. Well, first of all, what do they mean by that? Where did they get that idea and why are they saying it? Are they saying it because they have some kind of conviction about it, or are they just regurgitating a bunch of stuff that they heard somebody else say? Here's what I can tell you. I have, there's How many people in United States of America? 350 million or something like that. I'm not going to talk about other parts of the world, although this is probably true everywhere. Every birth certificate, you know, certificate of birth, whatever, that I've ever seen, and this would be true even for the ones I haven't seen, pretty sure. Before those were created, there was a baby born. Now, is there an exception to that? It's not likely, but it's possible. But I don't know why anybody would do that. The baby was born, and then the certificate and the accounting was created. If it wasn't for the flesh and blood baby, there would be no certificate, there would be no estate trust record, which means it was put in place for the baby. The baby is that's why it was done. So it's not, we don't own it per se. Things that have value come from our creator. And it's for us to have and to hold while we're here. And it's also for us to take dominion over and to administer it until we pass on. And then it's somebody else's, like the next generation, other people. But the idea that we don't have any right to it is a bunch of bunk, because it was made and put in place on our behalf. So the other thing I know is the barflies and the state, the fictional company, they have no right to it at all. Other than, it would make sense that if they do the administering and the accounting and some of the work, then they would get compensated for that. But it most definitely isn't theirs. Okay. Now, like I said, that would be the foundational thing, because I'm going to tell you a story. It's something that actually happened. This is something I did. I called, well, actually, an insurance agent called me. If you saw the date on the authentication, the last one was the 4th day of January 2017. That's when the final authentication was done. And about a year later, I guess, actually, no, it was more like 2 years, about 2000, somewhere middle to latter 2019. I went online and I was looking for a quote on automobile insurance, auto insurance. And then, of course, I had quite a few different agents call me, and I was on the phone with this one agent, somebody I never talked to before, had never given them any information, nothing. I gave her my passport, which it ended up, they can't do an insurance policy based on your passport number, but I gave her my passport number, and something that she saw on her computer made her ask this question. Based on my passport number, this is what she asked. She goes, "How long have you been out of the country?" And I said, "Oh, about 2 years, give or take, 2.5 years, something like that." And then she was messing around a little bit, and she said, "Well, where do you live now?" And I said, "Is that information you need for an insurance quote?" She said, "Oh, no, I was just curious." And that's all she said about it. But my point is, what they see when they access our records, see, the master file was changed when they authenticated this birth record. Now, I don't care if some quote guru or your neighbor or your Uncle Harry, I don't care who it is, they may tell you that it doesn't mean anything. I've heard people say that. And I don't care if they say that. It really doesn't affect me, and neither does it affect what happened when the birth certificate was authenticated. I'm just telling you what we know. The reason she asked me that question, because based on the passport number, I had moved out of the country. And she's right, I did. I moved off of the territorial overlay called the USA, the company, the corporation, the fictional paper territorial overlay. I stepped off of that down onto the land, or maybe I should say up onto the land, but I'm living on the land. I'm no longer in the USA. In other words, my organization, the trust, my business is no longer attached to Washington, D.C. I mean, that's pretty obvious. The question she asked verified that things had changed based on just the authentication. Now, a couple cautionary statements before I wind up and finish this broadcast. Don't go running to the recorder's office recording this unless you're absolutely sure of what you're doing. Don't go claiming ownership and, filing it on court dockets. And I know it's for our benefit, and I stand on that, but I'm just saying be careful what you do with it. If you're not sure what to do with it, put it in your file and keep it there. It still made a difference. I'm just telling you. I could tell you more stories of things that I know happened because of this. As a matter of fact, I know a guy that after he had his birth records authenticated, he went and had the police check his, pull his name, and it showed that he had a concealed carry permit. The guy had never gotten a permit. Okay. It's very important. So with that, have an amazing day. We're gonna continue from here, because I have people asking me, well, what's my, where do I start? And there's no answer that I could give anyone that would describe everyone. It's just not possible, depending on what you want to accomplish, but this would be the basics. And as a side note, an excellent book that you can read that would explain to you, in other words, if you read this book all the way through, you will comprehend a little bit of why this would be necessary. And that is Fruit from the Poisonous Tree by Mel Stamper. You can order that Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, I suppose, pretty much any bookstore. Fruit from the Poisonous Tree by Mel Stamper. Read that book all the way through, not just, and it gets, it's information overload and a lot of things that will bore you, but most likely, but you read it all the way to the end. And also check out the other channels that I had mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, and have an amazing day until next time.